a fresh graduate and student, I secured a top corporate role in less than 13 applications. And this isn't to brag, to show you there's real, proven strategies that actually work and can make the job search like so much easier. I know so many graduates and students get so tired of sending out dozens and hundreds of applications without even getting a single response back. And let me tell you something, there's a better way. And I've created a proven system that actually works so you can do the same thing. Look, you need to understand, I didn't start out with an entrepreneurial business mindset or even with any tech background. And just for some quick information, I work as a cybersecurity analyst at a Big Four firm. I didn't have this background. I mean, I started in biomedical sciences and I studied that for 3 years of my life. And honestly, because of this, I thought that transitioning into the corporate world or another field was basically impossible. Because everyone I asked, they were always like, oh no, there's no way for you to transfer because you need to do a degree in computer science if you want to transfer into tech, or business if you want to go into consulting. And this advice stuck in my head. The thing is, I also had no internships, I had no relevant experience, and I didn't have that many connections in the corporate world either. And I remember in a sense almost feeling totally unqualified. I even went to my career center at university for advice. And every bit of advice I found just felt unhelpful, and it just added to the pressure of everything. All everyone said was apply everywhere, apply to as many jobs as you can. But something just didn't sit right with me. I knew I needed a different approach and something more strategic, because I didn't just want to be another application in the recruiter's pile. So instead of spending my time on endless applications and just sending them all out, I focused on just 13. But the thing is, I made each one count. I refined my strategy, I targeted the specific companies I wanted to work for, and that's when things started to change. So that's kind of when I had my realization. The problem was never me. The problem is never any student. It's the approach that we've been conditioned to take. The traditional advice that you've been given is severely outdated. Most career advice just focuses on the basics. It focuses on the resumes, the cover letters, the interview prep, but to be honest, even the advice that they give is not going to help you secure a role. It's so generic. The thing is, these things don't make you stand out, because by the time they reach the recruiter's desk, they're already in a pile of hundreds and potentially thousands of applications. See, one of the biggest problems with the typical advice is the emphasis that everyone puts on quantity instead of quality. The idea that if you eventually apply to enough jobs that you'll eventually get one. But sending out dozens and even hundreds of applications without a targeted approach is so ineffective. It creates burnout, it creates frustration, and it makes you feel like a number in the deck, and it affects your self-belief and confidence. It makes you start thinking, will I even ever get this job? The truth is, companies aren't looking for a person who's replied to every single job under the sun. They're looking for someone who genuinely fits their culture and can bring that unique value to the table. Another issue is the overemphasis on resumes and cover letters. Don't get me wrong, yes, they are important. In fact, they're very important, but they're just pieces of the puzzle. The traditional approach kind of assumes that a resume will speak for itself. But what most people don't realize is that resumes don't actually get you the job. Hiring managers actually make the decisions based on who stands out in memorable ways. It's not just making a list of all the job duties you've conducted. You actually have to show how you bring value, what results you brought, what if you have the skills they need for the job, and most importantly, how you present yourself in the interviews. And there's networking. We're told to network, but we're not really even given guidance on how to do it effectively or properly. The traditional advice makes networking sound like small talk or a LinkedIn request, but that's honestly like the most surface level thing that I've ever heard. Real networking consists of building genuine relationships over a long-term period, when you're actually showing interest in other people's work and not just messaging them for a recommendation. The thing is, most people approach networking when they're too late into the process, when they already feel like that they need a job, instead of actually nurturing them long term beforehand. And another important thing that is so overlooked on and so important for Gen Z students, interns and graduates, no one really emphasizes the importance of personal branding. It's positioning yourself as someone who has something unique to offer. And when I say personal branding, I don't mean, oh, you have to post like 3 times a day on social media showcasing what lessons you learn every single day. No. See, the problem is that most job seekers right now, they approach the application process with the mindset of how they can actually fit into the role, as opposed to the value they can bring being themselves, something that goes beyond the basic requirements. Companies want candidates who can bring fresh perspectives and don't just fit into the norm. When you're so focused on meeting out their listed qualifications, you lose sight about all of this because you're so focused on the basic requirements they need that you forget to actually demonstrate the extra value you can bring outside of these basic requirements. So that's the problem I had with all the traditional advice. It just didn't fit anymore. It did not fit in today's job market, especially with Gen Z. Everything's online. Personal branding is moving forward. Applications are not the same anymore. And all the advice that we've been given was to just make us blend in with everyone else, not to stand out. So after realizing all the flaws that I just listed in the traditional system when I was going through my application process in 2021 in my last year of university, I decided to throw out the rulebook and that I didn't need it, because I realized that I had my own unique value that I could bring to each company. I didn't want to treat job applications like a numbers game, because not only did I know that was completely ineffective and a waste of energy, but why would I send out mass applications that aren't even tailored? Look, you've got to think of it from this perspective. Would you rather send out 500 non-tailored applications, maybe get 5 interview invitations back, or would you rather send out 10 high quality applications and get 2 interview invites back? It's a pretty easy answer for me. Obviously this one. So when I finally decided to shift my approach, I realized something amazing happened. In my last year of university, I was running a coaching business. I was speaking at events and I was creating content on TikTok and Instagram, and I've got over almost 90,000 followers on these platforms. These things gave me skills that I didn't even realize were important for the application process. Because of these things, like speaking to a camera and going to events and talking to students, I realized that I knew how to communicate my story naturally. And what do I mean by natural? I didn't sound rehearsed and robotic like this. The exact way I'm speaking to you right now, like I'd be speaking to any other person. I didn't sound stiff, and I didn't sound like I was spitting out lines like a robot, okay? I learned how to speak naturally on the camera, and this reflected in with the interview. And because of this, I wasn't just answering questions like everyone else and listing out my qualifications and why I'm such a big asset. I started storytelling that demonstrated how I could add value and demonstrated what I was actually like as a person based on all the experiences I had in the past to demonstrate the skills that they needed for the job. One of the biggest game changers I had was when I started treating interviews like a conversation. I didn't go into the interview with a list of boxes that I had to tick off. That's the completely wrong way to go about it. As someone coming from a non-traditional background, a non-technical background who had no experience, no internships, I realized that I had to make an impression that was not only memorable but also authentic. So I highlighted the experiences and the skills I had that I could bring to the table. On top of that, I'd already spent 2 years building my personal brand on social media, on TikTok, on Instagram, like I said, almost 90,000 followers. I created content that showcased my knowledge, my skills, my passion, my drive, and even my personality to an extent. LinkedIn right now, I don't post things like, oh, I'm so happy to announce I just achieved my certificate. No, that doesn't work. I posted about my experiences, my insights, even the challenges I faced, because people don't talk about these things, which helped me actually stand out from the crowd, and this made an impression to the hiring managers. Even in the interviews, it came across authentically. This brand I created was so much more than just my resume. It was a reflection of my character, my values, and the potential that I could bring to the companies. So when recruiters searched me online, they weren't just seeing my application. They were seeing a consistent story that I demonstrated myself as, and someone who was so serious about making this career transition. Look, I'm not telling you to go out there and become an influencer. I'm just saying, try and do a few things that separate you from everyone else, that shows your unique skills, your unique personality, and your unique experience. Then of course there were the aptitude tests. I knew that these were a make or break for many corporate roles, so I had a bit of an upper hand with this. So before I applied for biomedical sciences, I actually wanted to do dentistry, and when you're applying for dentistry in the UK, you have to take a test called the UK CAT. And the UK CAT is an aptitude test, which is numerical, verbal reasoning, situational judgment. And because of this, I had 3 years of practice identifying these patterns. So by the time the test day came for these corporate interviews, I could already pick up patterns like this. Because why? I had 3 years of experience. I'm not telling you you need 3 years of experience, but instead what I'm trying to say, you need to take out time to study for these tests. There's no secret trick or secret hack for these. You just need to study and practice until you become so quick you can spot the patterns like this. Obviously my scores weren't just average. I was so confident, I was doing them quickly, I was doing them efficiently, and I was doing them accurately, which is all 3 domains that they test you on. So I didn't just get average, I strived to get the top marks in these tests, and I truly believe this is what helped me stand out. So you need to make sure you're practicing. But look, out of all of this, I think the most critical piece was the research I conducted on each company. For each application, I didn't just look at the job description like everyone tells you to. I analyzed the company as a whole. I went onto their websites, I looked up their values, their missions, ESG, anything. And this allowed me to really tailor my responses during the interview process, because it aligned perfectly with what they were looking for in a person. For example, if I knew a company was focusing on innovation, I'd highlight my ability to think of things on the spot and my creativity and also my problem solving. If they were all about teamwork as opposed to working by yourself, I'd highlight times that I worked and collaborated effectively in a team. Look, all these elements combined, from my public speaking to my coaching to my UK CAT tests, it came together to form a strategy that made me pretty much unforgettable to hiring managers. I'm not just saying this, I literally have, look, I'll flash it up on the screen. These are all invitations I've received to complete different stages of the assessments for the hiring process. So look, once I realised that I had developed this approach, I knew that I needed to have testing and proof. I had all these insights. I had my confidence, my personal brand, strategies for telling my story, and all I needed to do was to kind of just combine them together to see if they would be effective or not. I wanted to see if these techniques could actually land me a job. So instead of applying everywhere, I just focused on a select handful of companies that I wanted to apply to. In my case, it was 13. But I didn't just apply. I made sure I made every single application count. I carefully selected roles that I knew would align with my personal strengths. I kind of positioned myself as a brand that could align with their brand. So it's actually just like two brands merging. The response was almost immediate. Instead of the silence and rejections that I'd be facing, I actually got loads of callbacks for job simulations, for aptitude tests, for assessment centres, and obviously a job offer. And these weren't just any roles. They were competitive roles that literally thousands of students and grads are competing for every single year. And during each interview, I could actually see that the hiring managers were intrigued to learn more about me and what I was saying. They didn't ask me generic questions, they asked me specific questions about the journey that I had spoken about. And I strongly believe that they remembered me, not because I was trying to fit into a mold like everyone else, but because I presented myself as this unique individual who could bring their transferable skills and that were valuable, not only for me, but for them. Look, I knew that this isn't just about luck after achieving this myself. Loads of graduates that I have spoken to have made over 500 applications, and they still have not gotten an interview or a callback. It's having a repeatable process, a well-rounded application, not just about your grades, not just your resume, not just your interviews, but all of these combined. And my low application count literally demonstrated that it is not about quantity, it's about the quality that you put out. So after I secured this role, I started sharing this approach with some people on social media. And because of this, I had an influx of messages from all these students and graduates asking me how they could do the same, asking how they could secure a role at a big four firm, at a top corporate job. And I guided them through the steps. And eventually what I realized is that I want to take this on a bigger scale, and I want to share this with as many students as I can. So if you've been following my YouTube for the last 4 weeks, I realized that I wanted to create something super powerful that all students can use to secure the offer the exact same way I did, with quality, not quantity applications. I've been designing a system carefully for the last 4 weeks, and it literally comes down to all the elements that I've listed in this video. Building a personal brand, interview confidence, aptitude tests, ATS friendly CVs, storytelling in interviews, understanding what companies truly need, and making targeted applications. Look, these elements I have created form the foundation of my system, and this will be going live next week. And I'm so excited. And it's everything I used to get a job offer from just 13 applications. And the results speak for themselves. I've had multiple students reach out to me about this. I've helped others secure a role. So if you're ready to step away from the old methods and actually find something that works, I will be launching this in 1 week, and I'm documenting my journey as I do it. This video was just to put out there, just to show why I went about making this decision and why I followed the steps that I did. You need a strategy that makes you stand out, because the job advice your career center been giving you at uni is outdated. It's not going to work. You need to remember the job search doesn't have to be a numbers game. The right approach is about quality, confidence, and knowing how to showcase your unique personality and skills as someone who is a catch. Make sure you hit subscribe to stay up to date with my journey and to follow for more updates, because that's what I'm using this channel for, to document my journey so I can look back on it. So I'll see you in the next video.